Magic and Mystery in Tibet by Alexandra David-Neel. Chapter 7, Mystic Theories and Spiritual Training. It is unnecessary to be an ordained monk to enter the short path to deliverance. According to its adepts, only initiations are of value, so any layman, if recognized as fit to undertake the spiritual climbing, may be accepted by a mystic master and, in due time, initiated by him. The same rule applies to students of magic. Nevertheless, most mystics and magicians have begun their career as youths in the religious order. The choice of the master who is to guide him along his mystic path, arduous and fraught with deceitful mirages, is a momentous decision for the candidate to initiation. The course which his life will follow depends to a great extent upon the character of the lama he elects. For having asked admittance at a door from which they ought to have turned away, some have met with fantastic adventures. Yet, if the young monk is satisfied with begging the spiritual guidance of a lama, who is neither an anchorite nor an extremist of the short path, his novitiate will probably not include any tragic incidents. During a probation period of undetermined length, the master will test the character of the new disciple. Then he may simply explain some philosophical treatise and the meaning of a few symbolic diagrams, teaching him the methodic meditations for which they are used. If the Lama thinks his pupil capable of proceeding farther, he will expound him the program of the mystic training. The latter includes 3 stages, namely Tawa, T-A-W-A, to look, examine; Gompa, G-O-M-P-A, to think, meditate; Chyodpa, C-H-Y-O-D-P-A, 2 dots over the O. Chodpa, to practice, realize. This is the fruit of accomplishment through the 2 former stages. Another less current enumeration makes use of 4 terms to convey the same meaning as follows. The first stage is Ton, which is meaning, reason, that is to say, investigation of the nature of things, their origin, their end, the causes upon which they depend. Lob, L-O-B, study of various doctrines. The second stage is Gom, thinking or meditating on that which has discovered and learned, practicing introspective meditation. The third stage is Togs, T-O-G-S, understanding. In order that the novice may practice in perfect quietness the various exercises which the program requires, it is nearly certain that the Lama will command him to shut himself in Tsams, T-S-A-M-S. And then there's a footnote here, and it says it's written P-T-S-H-A-M-S, and it's pronounced T-S-A-M. I'm going to pronounce it Psalm, so I hope that's correct. The word Psalms signifies a barrier, the border of a territory. In religious parlance, to stay in Psalms means to live in seclusion, to retire beyond a barrier which must not be passed. That barrier may be of different kinds. With advanced mystics, it becomes purely psychic, and it is said that the latter need no material contrivances to isolate themselves while meditating. There exist several categories of Psalms, each one being subdivided into a number of varieties. Proceeding with the less austere towards the most severe forms, we find the following ones. A lama or a lay devotee shuts himself in a room or private apartment. He does not go out or only does so at fixed times to perform devotional practices such as walking around religious edifices, making repeated prostrations before sacred objects, or the like. According to the rule which he has adopted, that Tsampa, Tsamspa, then there's a footnote. It says, he who practices Psalms, not to be mistaken for Tsampa, flour of roast barley, written Rtsampa. Okay, let me start the sentence over again. According to the rule which he has adopted, the Tsampa either may be seen or must remain invisible. In the first case, he is generally permitted to talk briefly with the members of the household, his relatives or servants, or even to receive a few visitors. In the second case, he may only be seen by those who attend him. If a visitor is admitted, he must remain within hearing outside the Tsampa's room. A curtain screens the entrance, and the interlocutors remain invisible to each other, as in some Roman Catholic contemplative order of nuns. A number of Tibetans resort occasionally to one or another of these mild forms of seclusion for non-religious motives, seeking merely to avoid disturbance while engaged in the study of any branch of Tibetan learning, grammar, philosophy, astrology, medicine, etc. Next come the recluse, who sees but one attendant. He who renounces speaking and makes himself known, makes known his needs by writing. He who partly covers his window so that he cannot see the surrounding landscape nor any outside object except the sky. He who renounces the sight of the sky, covering his window entirely and living in a windowless room, which nevertheless admits the daylight indirectly. He who sees no one at all. In this case, if the Tsampa enjoys the use of a suite of rooms, his meals are brought into one of them while he retires into another. When he lives in a single room, food is placed next to the entrance. Someone knocks at the door to inform the recluse that what he needs is ready, and then the inmates of the house leave the adjacent room or corridors for a moment to allow the Tsampa to come out without being seen. Any object is returned the same way, the Tsampa calling attention by knocking at the door or ringing a bell. Among those who practice this particular kind of Tsampa, some ask by writing for the things which they require, but others renounce this facility. Consequently, whatever may be their needs, they cannot make them known. Even if those who attend them forgot to give them their meal, they ought to fast in silence. Generally, Psalms in one's own house do not last long, especially of the strict kind. 1 year seems to be an exceptional period. One usually hears of people who live in seclusion for 3 months, 1 month, or even a few days only. Laymen rarely shut themselves in their apartments for more than 1 month. It is easy to understand that prolonged and severe psalms cannot be practiced in an ordinary residence. There, whatever care is taken, the moving about of people busy with worldly affairs and the noise inevitably reach the Tsampa through the thin barrier of his closed door. The silence and quiet surroundings which may be enjoyed to a high degree in the monasteries are not even deemed sufficient by some, and many Gampas own special small houses built for the use of their members who wish to live in strict seclusion. These houses are called Sams Kang, Tsamskhang. They are sometimes situated in an out-of-the-way spot inside the monastery's walls, but more frequently stand aloof on some hill at a distance outside the walled enclosure. It's not unusual to find groups of these meditation houses standing in the solitude at a few days' march from their parent monastery. The plans of the Samskhangs correspond to the various rules and requirements here above mentioned. From the windows of some of them, The recluse may enjoy the sight of beautiful landscapes, while others are surrounded by walls that cut off the view on all sides. In that case, the enclosure often forms a small courtyard or a terrace where the Sampa may sit or walk out in the open without being seen or himself seeing anything of the outside world. Most samkongs are divided into 2 rooms. One of them, the recluse sits and sleeps, and the other one is the kitchen in which an attendant may live. When the Sampa must see no one and keep the rule of silence, his attendant lives in a separate hut. A double wicket is then built in the wall or the door of the recluse's room, and through it meals are given to him. Solid food is generally served only once a day, but buttered tea is brought several times. If the lama belongs to one or another of the red cap sects, beer alternates with the tea. Tibetans having the custom of keeping a small bag of barley flour at hand, the recluse is at liberty to eat some with his tea or beer whenever he likes. Only members of the religious order retire in cottages specially built to be used as meditation houses. Some remain in seclusion during several consecutive years. A canonic period is 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. A canonic period, CANONIC, is 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days. Some repeat that long retreat twice or thrice in the course of their life, and a few shut themselves in psalms for life. There exists a still more austere form of psalms, and that is dwelling in complete darkness. And I'm going to pause here because this is a very long chapter, so I'm going to divide it up into parts. Now, there's a footnote here which I'm going to read. And it says, though drinking fermented beverages is strictly prohibited by Buddhism, Tibetan red caps declared that Padmasambhava, their founder, allowed it. Nevertheless, some of them seem to know better. Padmasambhava, they say, allowed the drinking of alcohol when performing certain rites, and then the quantity to be drunk was that which fills the hollow of the palm. Padmasambhava, who was a Western Indian and an adept of Tantrism, taught his Tibetan converts the form of worship of his sect. And, as with many Tantrikas, Tantrikas, the 2 drops of wine to be drunk in sacramental fashion led to habitual drinking. An Indian saying goes as follows: some drink to perform a rite, and some perform a rite in order to drink. But Tibetans addicted to drinking do not seek a religious excuse any more than their Western brethren in drunkenness. Well, that's very interesting. Let me spell that name for you because this was hard to pronounce. Padmasambhava. Padmasambhava. And that concludes this part of the chapter. Till soon.